Hi YouTube, it's 9 months into this Korean immersion learning. I'll just go straight to the statistics, the stuff that I've, achieved during the past 1 month. Right now I'm at 2200 cards, which is around 900 more than last month, with an average of 30 cards according to Anki. Although I technically do only like about 28. So when I first started mining, I did 15, and then it's 25, and then it's 28, and then now it's 35. And I think this is as high as I can pull it in a consistent manner, because I don't think that even with like 40 or maybe 50 cards a day, which is very dumb in my opinion, it really destroys the fun of immersion. And Anki is not your means of study, it's immersion. And I've been enjoying immersion way more. But what I'm trying to say here is that I don't want to be a person who is making so much sentence cards and not immersing. Thankfully that hasn't been the case. And also, since I don't have that much time to active immersion every single day, so long as I don't quit is like my goal. I mean, I'm willing to be wrong in terms of like this immersion thing, even though this immersion thing is clearly already correct. Like I already learned so much. Like immersion, I believe immersion is the only way to learn a language. Like even the people who studies a language traditionally with like a book or something, if you don't watch and listen to the language and read in the language, then you are not going to get fluent in the language, no matter what method you're using to learn a language. Even without like knowing refold or migaku or any of this immersion, method or community, if you don't spend your time in the language, you're not going to get fluent. That's just the reality, I guess. So on that note, I have been immersing as much as I can, and it's been really good. So that's the amount of sentences that I've made. I made like 2200 right now, and that's the mine sentences. I believe I've mentioned this before, but before I started my sentence mining, I used the evita deck, the sentence one, and the vocab, but only until like 1,000 words on the vocab before I suspended it, and I don't use the deck anymore. But for the sentences, there are about 2200 at the same in the evita deck, so that would put me about almost 5,000 right now, and I have about 1,600 cards from back in like November of last year when I learned grammar from How to Study Korean. So that would put me about almost 6,000, I guess. I'm saying this because a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I estimated all the time that I have immersed in the language actively. Clearly my passive immersion is higher. I try to put as much as I can, but for the active immersion, I don't have that exact record on how many hours I've immersed. And I've done the math, and the amount of hours that I had until March 5th of 2021, which is almost like 8 months, the entire 8 months, I guess, since I started learning the language, is around 315 hours with 174.5 hours of active like watching things and 140 hours of reading. So that's how much I had, and that's like a very not accurate estimate, because that's the best I can do. So that's really small. I mean, 8 months, I could probably have doubled that number if I were actually, be more active in the active immersion, I guess. But that's fine, it's the past, I don't really care. And from that date, from March 5th, from early this month, I started tracking my immersion as best as I can, down to the minute, every single day using Toggle. That's when I use Toggle. And then I moved to Clockify for no reason. They're basically both the same app, but I did that because I thought like you can't export in Toggle and stuff like that, but apparently they're the same. So right now I'm stuck with Clockify, and it's very easy to move between Clockify and Toggle, so I don't really care. And since earlier this month until now, I have about 65 hours, so around 64 hours, 54 minutes and 25 seconds, with watching YouTube almost 30 hours, reading almost 24 hours, 9 hours of watching radio shows, 2 hours of movie. I watched one movie called Wan Byok Hantain. That's very poor pronunciation, but it means like perfect strangers. The story is weird, but I can follow it. I'm gonna talk about later. And I watched 30 minutes of TV shows. I believe that was finishing an episode of Nolaun Toyoil, another very bad pronunciation by me, which is, I believe the English is Amazing Saturday. I watched it because there's this actress that I saw from K-drama. That's not important. Anyway, so that's the statistics on Anki and active immersion. And for the passive immersion, I've listened to a lot of radio shows, like I mentioned. And the one that I recorded is when I actually listen and paying attention to. Sometimes they have a video for it in the radio shows. Radio shows like, NBC FM or something, Kiss the Radio, Never Now, and then like there's the visual radio from, have I mentioned NBC? Basically all these like radios where there's a lot of K-pop idols or just singers or K-drama actors. I watch that a lot because they're very comprehensible. It's like I can understand from 50 to 80% of what they're talking about, which is very rewarding. And almost every single day, the words that I've learned, I learned it the other day. I learned it the next day, sorry. So like if I learn a word for, I don't know, stealing, the next day I would definitely hear it again. Most of the time, which is really rewarding. Even though I mostly still can't recall them, which is not the point, but at least, like I recognize what they've said. Like I'm not, and my brain is like, hey, I've seen this, and that's very rewarding. And other than radio shows, I am still listening to newer audio clip, but mostly it's news. I listen to YTN news. I don't get it at all, but I like announcer's voice, very soothing voice. And then there's this one channel where the person is narrating a novel. The video is low-key ASMR video, but because it's like a soft-spoken for people, like it's an ASMR video or for relaxation video, it's technically audiobook, and therefore the pronunciation is very clear and it's very soothing. And I listen to that like almost every single day before I go to sleep. I didn't go to sleep with it. I don't do like the actual AJet style immersion because that's crazy. It's gonna hurt my ear. But it was pretty cool because sometimes I recognize the word, and the guy is very like nice, I guess. I found that video from googling the word audiobook in YouTube, and I just listened to it right now. I don't understand anything that he said, but I feel I can recognize some of the words that he said, and I can recognize what he said during his like introduction in the video before he start to narrate the book. So that's really cool, and that's what I've immersed with. And what I'm reading is right now I'm reading Ollie Richards. I'm about halfway through. Probably finish it in the next 1 week. And since last month, I've read 3 more books. I read the 3rd and the 4th Korean Reading with Culture, and I read one book from Talk to Me in Korean called Real Life Korean Conversations Intermediate, which is basically just a bunch of, I think there were 30 dialogues. There's an audio for it that you can download, but I haven't listened to the audio. I was just there because it's a very quick and easy sentence mining, surprisingly, I still don't understand all of it. It's like every page I get like one word. That's the same with Ollie Richards. Even then, technically, like Ollie Richards is easier than Yonsei. Like after if you can read Yonsei 1, which is like 10 minutes that it takes to read, like seriously, it's just a bunch of conversations, right? It's very short. You can jump to Ollie Richards right away, which is what I should have done. And I'm pretty sure it's very common with people who just start with this immersion thing that they don't read from the beginning. But I'm not too late on it, so that's pretty cool. The best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is now, right? So I just read Ollie Richards, and it was a blast. It was so easy. I still get some words in it, but it's really good. And I read webtoon. I finished another webtoon called Sosimhan Palette, Timid Palette. The last chapter was out like yesterday, so I finished it yesterday. It was so good. It's an 80-ish chapter. It's so good. The story is university love story, but it's not cringy, so that's really cool. And other than that webtoon, Sosimhan Palette, I've read, I'm like chapter 70 or something on Koroso 30분, which I've been reading from last month. So it's actually funny, I started the Sosimhan Palette webtoon later than Koroso 30분 because Koroso 30분 is really boring in my opinion. It's just typical, love story. Like, it's weird. And the graphics, the style of the whole comics is better in Sosimhan Palette. That's why I finished it first. And it's shorter because right now I believe Kuroso Samsipun is like 100 plus chapter. So there is a certain attractiveness, I guess, to a short webtoon, because even now the first two webtoons that I finished are still ongoing, that I've catched up with is still ongoing. So every like Sunday and every Monday I got a notification and I read them. And I've switched from mining webtoon to mining YouTube and books, because I found that reading webtoon on any platform, from in my computer or on my phone, it's annoying to mine webtoons, and I have to watch it. I have to read it on the browser so that I can screenshot it if I read it on my phone. It's a little inconvenient, and I just decided not to mine webtoon anymore since I can understand most of it anyway. So that has been a pretty good progress, because when I started reading webtoon, I still mine everything because it was fun too, technically. I'm also doing, and I have finished the Kwanyeong Pyohyun, which is common expression deck from Paoliton that I found from Retro. It's only like 100 cards. Took me like 2 weeks probably. I've found a lot of them coming up in the Immersion, which I already know before I get the deck. Stuff like Maldo Andwe, and then Kika Makita, and then what is that thing, like when you see something in front of your eyes but you don't see it, and then when you are so happy that you fly, and stuff like that. It's really cool to recognize in my Immersion. But yes, it's a really good deck. It's too good actually, too many tags. I usually only spam the space button because I just want to know if I forgot the meaning. I don't really care about remembering the deck since it has too much. It's too good. The deck is too good actually. And then I use the Routledge frequency dictionary deck that I got from Discord to sometimes take a sentence from there as a sentence bank. But I don't really use Morphman. I find it not that hard to. And on average, it took me less than an hour to get 30 sentences a day. I mine 35 sentences right now, every single day. Even if I don't have the Routledge dictionary frequency deck. There was a day when I get like 25 sentences from YouTube alone in a day in less than 2 hours. It's very worth it to sentence mine manually for me, I guess, because it's just fun. For YouTube, I watch there's this channel called Wokuman. Yeah, if you talk to Korean, they probably won't understand. You say, "Do you know Workman?" You have to say, "Wokuman." I don't know why. And I think I've heard this quote before that when you're learning Japanese, just take Japanese English word, I believe it's called kairaigo, like loan words. Just treat that as a separate Japanese word rather than a Japanified version of an English word, because it's just going to be so different in pronunciation and the way you write it. You won't even recognize that it's from English. Like, for example, the word for version is bochon, which sounds like nothing in English. Like, so when I saw that word, I was like, what the hell is this? I mean, you must be familiar with this. Like, you saw a word and you'd be like, what the hell does this mean? And this came from English. It's a Konglish word. So yeah, that's annoying. And yeah, so Workman is really good. There's the main host is Jong Song-kyu, I believe. He's a former announcer in JTBC, and it's really funny. It's really good, and these type of shows are just perfect for sentence mining. And I got a lot of sentences from that. And then there is once a month host like Bibi, she's a singer, and there is Kimina, also a former announcer, but she's a newscast, the weather announcer. So it's really cool. I can follow like 50% of it, in terms of my comprehension. And for, like I previously mentioned, for radio shows with K-pop idols and stuff, I could understand up to like 80%. It's so comprehensible. The format is almost all the same. They just introduce themselves and then talk about their new music, and then read questions from the listener of the radio shows that they have sent before, and then play some weird games. So that's really comprehensible, and I really like that. I still can't follow history videos. So there's just a lot of history videos, like why did Russia sold Alaska to the United States and stuff like that. There's a lot of videos like that, and I still can't follow them. I can understand obviously because it has a picture in it and there's a subtitle, but the person speaks so quickly. And then that's also the case with channels that review movie or drama, because there's a lot of that, like basically show recap channels. I still can't understand that, but I can recognize some of the words. I can understand 50% of TV shows like On and Off, Na Honja Sanda, I believe, which is following like this guest life, usually a popular artist, and then I can understand 50% ish of No Laun Toyoil, like I previously mentioned. The format is almost always the same since it's a TV show. Yeah, so that's basically everything that I've been doing. For next month, I'm gonna try to finish more graded readers. I'm not gonna jump to web novels because it's boring. I have read some of the 3-minute web novels and even longer web novels. There's this web novels that I read that is like a, what do you call it, like old Joseon era, and I can follow it, but it's not entertaining. I'd rather send this mine from YouTube and stuff like that. I will read though. I will read web novel. That's one of my goals for this year, to be able to read web novels and novels in general, like just novels made for natives. But it's still a long way to go, and I have a lot of time. I don't really care about that right now. I don't want to stress that. So right now I'm mining mostly YouTube and TV shows, but mostly YouTube and graded readers. The graded readers that I'm gonna read next is gonna be finishing the Korean with Culture series. There are 6 books. I'm on the 5th right now, so 1 more book, and I'm gonna finish Vitamin Hangugo. There are 6 books, but the first 4 is only conversation, so I don't read them. So I'm gonna read the 5th and the 6th, and then I have other books. I have a lot of these graded readers. I really like them. They give like a weird article on the culture, and the PDF is really clear, so my OCR can pick that up most of the time. Not that it matters. Like I can type right now. My typing speed is like 28, maybe 30 right now. When I first started, it was only 10. Right now, it's almost 30 WPM. That's probably gonna go to 40, which is the average people typing speed. I believe it's 40 or 45 in English, so probably would be the same in Korean. And that's it. I don't think there's something interesting that I've done. What I've noticed though is that right now, especially with webtoons, I don't need to stress about the language anymore, and I've gotten more accustomed to the idea of ambiguity, tolerate the ambiguity. So if you don't understand something, it's not that you're dumb. I mean, you probably are dumb, but like, it's nice to know that you're improving. Even just 1%. It's better than nothing. It's better to read 1 sentence a day than not doing anything in Korean. So I guess we all have our own excuses. And I mean, I personally don't think I'm allowed to complain, because I saw some people on Discord, they could immerse like 24/7, which is cool for them, They probably make more progress. If your life is literally in Korea, if your mental state is in Korea, then you're probably gonna acquire the language faster. But there are people who probably have kids to take care of, or have a job that demand a lot of time every day, and those people are still immersing, so I guess I have no excuse. I'm still a high school student. I don't really stress over that, even though right now, this week, I just finished my oh my god, Kimmalkosa. No, it's not Kimmalkosa, it's Jungankosa, I guess, like midterm. I just finished that this week, and I was still able to immerse, so it's been really great. I'm waiting for the moment I can understand monolingual dictionary. I can understand half of the monolingual dictionary. So like, let's say 5 out of 10 times I check the monolingual definition, I can understand them. But even then, I would still choose the English definition because it's just 1 word, whereas the Korean definitions are like really long. But I can understand that. I'll show you some of my cards that use monolingual definition. And Naver Dictionary is definitely the most complete dictionary, but sometimes it's not enough. I have to Google it, which is the fun part of it. And I've noticed a couple grammar that I've never encountered before, even though I've done both How to Study Korean and Talk to Me in Korean, which is like the holy grail of the grammar. You're supposed to do KGIU, but there's this website, Learning Korean Blogspot something, that has the entire 3 books in the website, so I can just check that really quickly online. And it's faster to check it online when you actually encounter it in the wild than learning it one by one. That sounds dumb. So that's everything from me. Hope it's not too long, and you're not supposed to listen to this anyways. You're supposed to be immersing, and I'm supposed to be immersing right now, honestly. It's 5 p.m. I'm recording it right now, and I have to edit this and stuff like that. And I haven't sentenced mine today. So yeah. Taume toba. That's not an output, that's an actual sentence that I saw. So don't blame me for outputting. Early output is really bad. Though I output a little in a comment, and it gets the heart. It gets heart from the author of the video. So I guess I'm Korean right now. I don't know. I'll see you in the next update. Bye.